And that
Ooh.
that girl was so thankful that I did that and just helped her when no other realtor would give her the time of day, that I think she sent me 30 referrals since 2013, and they've all been with people that are just like kind, considerate people.
My name is Kevin McIntosh, and this is The Closing Table, where we talk to experts about their experience in real estate all across the country. Let's go. Welcome back to The Closing Table. I am your host, Kevin C. McIntosh. And joining us on this episode, I'm very, very excited to talk to this man and find out what's going on in real estate, specifically in his market. We want to welcome Weston Buchan to the show. How you doing, Weston?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking time out to be here on The Closing Table and accepting our invitation. I can't tell you how much we appreciate that, sir. So, we're here to talk real estate, obviously, but before we do that, let's separate the person from the profession. I want to talk to you, Weston, in 60 seconds or less. Can you tell us who you are outside of real estate?
Love that, man. Got to promote that, not just a robot in the real estate world. So first and foremost, I am a father. I've got a little girl who's turning 2 in January, and that's a huge time consumption, man. And I'm absolutely loving being a dad. Second and foremost, I'm an athlete. Did 4 in high school, 1 in track, and then I 1 in college where I did track, and then I'm pretty obsessed with beach volleyball. So I specifically train and schedule my months for those type of tournaments. So
nice.
Lastly, I'm a musician, so I got to throw that in there. Aspiring musician. I do 1 gig a month, play the guitar and sing. Something I love to do.
Man, you live in a rock star lifestyle, man. I love it. Look, athletic, into the music, the arts, taking care of your business professionally. Also a father, which I got to respect. 2-year-old on the way. My son just turned 2 in October. Man, what a run. What a run.
You understand what I'm dealing with, man. It's some time consumption chasing those guys around.
Man, for real. Cool, man. Look, I love to hear about, like I said, just separating the person from the profession, finding out who you are as an individual and as a human. Beautiful. So let's get into the business part of it. I just want you to describe your real estate business, if you can. And if you are able to hit on a few key points, how long you've been licensed, what you consider your specialty or niche, and or any notable achievements.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm coming up on 12 years in the real estate business. Pretty much started right out of college. So
Nice.
been doing it for a minute. I plucked a few grades, so I'm probably a little older than you could think. So as far as specialty, I would say waterfront is something I'm passionate about. And then I know this is not necessarily the niche that most people would say, but I really find passion in helping deserving people.
Interesting. Deserving people. How would you describe, if you don't mind, how would you describe deserving people, please?
Yeah, and that's like something that everyone would describe completely different. Yeah, to me, it's anyone just like I have a conversation with, and I feel like that they are someone that I want to work hard for, because this job can be grueling. You can be doing some serious hours. And like, if I have someone on the other end of my phone just texting me at 10 p.m. being like, man, this is keeping me up at night. It's a lot easier to help someone that you just like, you want to be there for, you want to go the extra mile for. So like deserving is someone like that to me. Like I want them to respect me as a professional, but like also just like need someone there to have their back.
Right. Okay. So from my understanding, and I definitely want you to correct me if I'm wrong, clarify, it would sound like you also like to help more people who aren't as knowledgeable about the whole transaction, maybe first-time home buyers. Do you lean more towards them? Okay.
I mean, I do a lot of first-time home buyers. I'm sure we'll get into like the stats of things. My average sale price is like just under $500,000 when the average sale price here is kind of, $350,000 range. So like I've done multi-million, I've done a 45,000 acre lot. So it's kind of just whoever comes my way and I want to help them, that's deserving. And I'm there to help them out.
Love it, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, I love that you have a specific market, or the specific clients that you pretty much want to target or aim for, because not everybody should be serving everyone. Not everyone is fit to serve everybody. You know what I'm saying? So to
100%.
nail it down and have a specific niche or specialty, I think that's what makes you a master. So I love that you put that into perspective like that. So let's talk about it. You breezed over it briefly. Let's talk about where you're actually servicing in your market. So describe your market first geographically. Give as much information for someone who may have never been there, the landmarks, things to do, notable attractions, the culture, the weather, etc. Please.
Yeah, so I am in northern Michigan. Anyone who is from Michigan, they do this.
I knew it was
and then they point to where they live. So I'm right on the tip of the pinky right here. So makes it pretty easy. I think we're most worldly famous for the Sleeping Bear Dunes, which are just west of Traverse City. If you have not heard of the Sleeping Bear Dunes, I encourage you to Google them and see what they look like. Yeah. But it's not what people think of when they think of Michigan. And then we're also known for the cherry capital of the world. So we do the Cherry Festival every single year. That's a huge touristy attraction. And kind of to go along with that, like, this is very much a touristy town. So I mean, like, we have, May through August is like the season for so many businesses.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, that's what Michigan, I'm not even going to say that's when Michigan thrives, because Michigan is one of the states that experiences all seasons. So we definitely have winters. But we even have activities in the winter. Also, there's more winter wonderlands popping up, and people, in different municipalities and towns just throwing actual events for the citizens to get out and enjoy this winter. But like you say, even during the summer, it's our time to shine, baby. Great Lakes, the dunes, everything, man. So 100%. I would agree with that. One question I want to ask, as a fellow Michigander myself, where is the cutoff between northern Michigan and southern Michigan? Is it the UP in the lower peninsula? Which I don't think so, but how would you describe the cutoff between northern and southern Michigan?
To me, when people are talking northern, it's like Cadillac and above. Okay. So because I definitely consider Traverse City a northern Michigan
I would
part, but it's not in the UP. And I mean, UP, you're getting isolated in a lot of spots up there. It's awesome. I would say there are definitely places in the UP that are similar to Traverse City, but we have a little bit longer summers.
Yes, sir. That is a fact. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they already have inches of snow right now still.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be
like
surprised.
an inch out there, but it's like 45 today. But we've had a couple of storms. But kind of going back to your point, I mean, 4 seasons, like, I love them. I feel like most of the locals should love them. But I mean, yes, you mentioned winter wonderland, 100%. I mean, the summer months, you have these crystal clear beaches where you can see the bottom when you're 80 feet deep in some spots, which is unreal.
Man.
And then the fall. I mean, if you don't come to the fall, I think that might be my favorite season.
That's a Michigander season. Yes, sir.
Yeah. That's where it's at.
Yes, sir. I agree, man. You hitting the nail on the head. Michigander to Michigander. Cool. Thank you for painting that picture for Traverse City. I don't think I've ever been there, so that puts a little bit more into perspective for me. So let's get into the economic side of things. You have any data for us regarding real estate there? Now, you talked about it a little bit. You say you average around 500,000. You've done 45,000. You've done $1 million properties. What's like the average list price there? How's the sales price compared to the list price? How's everything adjusted since the beginning of the year? Days on market, please. Anything you can give us.
Yeah, and I guess, I definitely could have sharpened up on these stats before I give them, because these are older stats that I have remembered at least a couple of years. But I believe Ann Arbor, Traverse City, and West Bloomfield are pretty much year after year tied for the average highest sale price in the state of Michigan.
Really?
I think the last time in Grand Traverse County that I looked, it was in like the upper 300 as far as the average goes. I think there's just like a lot of skewed data going on, because, you'll see like a lot of 250 to 350. That's what everyone wants because it's the most affordable.
Yep.
But then you have these $3.5 million houses on Lake Michigan that kind of skew things for sure. And as far as going into specifics, like, yeah, I still think that things are pretty competitive here.
Mm-hmm.
It has chilled out a little bit with the interest rates without question.
Yeah.
We also have a pretty low inventory in our area, which doesn't help. But I would say that the houses that are priced within 10% of where they're actually worth are still going super quick.
Yeah, as it should. I mean, I think that's like what we talk about is the key when it comes to listing is the price. You know, obviously the location and everything like that. But I mean, you can pretty much sell any property if it's priced right. So I 100% get that. Yeah, 100% get that.
So rolling off of that, we have a ton of realtors in the Traverse City area, like a ton, way more than we probably should. A lot of them are part-time.
Okay.
I consider myself about as real as it can get for being a realtor. In fact, when people call me a salesman, it actually hurts me. Like I don't consider myself a salesman. I never have. So like that being said, you know, last spring when things were just crazy competitive, in fact, I wrote 19 offers last spring in the first quarter, and 10 of those were $100,000 above ask price. Ooh. One got accepted. That was the worst spring I'd ever had, but it ended up being my second best career year. So like those two middle ones were just, you know, on point. But to that being said, I will come and I will tell someone, this is exactly what I think you should do. And right now, I think the market is telling you to list it exactly where it's going to sell, and let the fact that there's nothing else out there, no other competing homes, let the other people bid up the price. And I said, if you don't get the price you want, then don't accept the offer. And I think I was running into a lot of issues with that because these other realtors would slide in and list it for $100,000 more than what I suggested, and it usually sold substantially less than even what I was hoping we'd get as far as like pricing it competitively to get multiple offers.
That's wow. And that speaks. Well, that's your own individual story, which is kind of crazy, but it kind of speaks to the overall industry too, and how things have moved, how the market has shifted, how the buyer demand has changed over the year and over the months, I should say. So, overall, your professionalism still rises to the top, and you learn from your mistakes, you learn from things that has happened in the market, and you continue to move forward. But that's absolutely. That's the most valuable thing. I love to hear that.
I always say I'm one of the fortunate ones. You kind of, I skipped over like, what was it? You were asking for notable achievements earlier. So yeah, I mean, I have those. Like my first full year, I was rookie of the year for my franchise, which was a big one. And I spent my first 8.5 years with the franchise of Coldwell Banker, and twice I was nominated and achieved as what's called 30 under 30, where they considered the 30 best realtors in the world for the franchise of Coldwell Banker. And that was super cool because I got to meet, you know, realtors from California, from India, from Canada, and we got to just like experience like the different markets. So I think that's been like a really cool, like more broad achievement. I was selected as 40 under 40 for our greater region, and I did that before I, you know, turned 30. So like that was a big thing. But honestly, like the biggest is just consistently being a top producer.
Correct.
I think since 2013, I've at least been in the top 5% in the country. And there's a pretty big difference between 5, 3, 2, and 1. That like 3% in the country, sometimes 2 is like, that's my happy place. Because the one time I was in the top 1%, whew, man, real estate can take a toll on you.
Pressure.
There's no question about that.
Yeah. That's interesting. But that speaks to your work ethic, man, and your success, man. You're doing it. You're doing it. We love to hear that. Real quick. So I want to talk about Traverse City and its location and waterfront property, since that's your specialty and niche. Kind of off the cusp, just inquiring, there's only so much land for waterfront properties, right? Now, you know, because Michigan is surrounded by water on three sides, there's, like we said, there's limited land you can expand or build. So I just want to speak on, or have you speak on, what is the demand for these waterfront properties? These properties, are you seeing people from out of town, out of state come in and try to take advantage of some of these Michigan prices that are relatively low compared to other states? And do you have any stories of you helping someone from out of town, out of state, purchase a waterfront property here in Michigan?
That's a killer question, man, for sure. So yeah, we obviously have Lake Michigan. We have Grand Traverse Bay, which is a part of Lake Michigan. Those are like just pristine water, gorgeous places. Then you also have like some of the nicest inland lakes in the world. You have Torch Lake, you have Glen Lake, you have Lake Leelanau, Long Lake. These are all crazy desirable places. And I mean, besides Lake Michigan, I believe in Grand Traverse County, there's like 60 some inland lakes. Now, some are like super small and like mucky. Others are sand bottoms, clear water, like perfect for swimming. So, I mean, that's definitely like when I have people asking for lakefront, I'm like, first off, like, what are you looking for? Are you looking for a swimming lake? Are you looking for a boating lake? Are you looking for, what are you looking for? And as far as like specific stories that I think would relate to that is the fact that here you can buy a gorgeous home, like million and a half. You can get a really nice house on a really nice lake. And of course you can spend 3.5 million. Sometimes you can spend 600,000. It kind of depends on the lake. And there's so many different lakes, but like for us locals, like to spend 1.5 million on a waterfront property, that's tough with like the average that you're making in our area. However, I mean, you go look at someone from California, from New York, from Florida, Chicago, even Grand Rapids and Detroit. We're having a lot of people come from those areas and buy this, $1.5 million house. And they're like, this is pretty affordable compared to if I bought a lake house where I live.
Yeah.
So it definitely is a little frustrating for the locals, kind of like not necessarily pushing them out, but like it's easier for other people to have vacation homes in our area without question.
Yeah, no, I get it. 100%. And like you said, I think this was news to me. You said Traverse City, Ann Arbor, and did you say Bloomfield Hills? The 3 most expensive markets in Michigan?
Yeah.
I
don't want you to quote me on that, but I remember having an office meeting a couple of years ago where they were all pretty high up there for like the average sale price. Yes. So,
yes. And if I'm not mistaken, you can find, I'm sure you can find some type of waterfront property in Bloomfield Hills. I'm not quite sure about Ann Arbor, but I just know, just kind of relating it to Traverse City, I would imagine the price would be like significantly higher than what it would be in Traverse City, just based off the location and things that, the surrounding and things that's available in those markets.
I don't know West Bloomfield as well.
Right.
I went to college in Grand Rapids. So I know their inland lakes. Their inland lakes compared to our inland lakes are not the same and not the same quality. Wow. Like, that's why I'm saying people coming from, Grand Rapids and they're buying like a house that if they were to buy a house in Grand Rapids for, let's just say $2 million, that's going to be on like a large pond where you can't see your feet when you go in the water. Like, to me, I'm so spoiled growing up here that I can see where my toes are and I don't have to worry about, it's a great lake, so you don't have to worry about anything. But everyone like who is from this area goes to like a mucky lake and they're like, what's down there? Like,
I know, what's that crawling on my feet?
Yeah.
So are there any hurdles, obstacles that the average person, or let's say someone who is going from a regular single family home going into a waterfront property, it's not the same type of transaction. There's different moving parts when it comes to waterfront properties. What are some of these average hurdles, obstacles that someone will have to be, notified of in order to purchase and obtain a waterfront property?
I think the biggest thing, and this isn't like super, super common, but a lot of the inland lakes are starting to require holding tanks. And that is a lot more when it's a new construction, whether that it's like grandfathered in or something like that, or if there's like a failing one and they need to replace. I think that's like such a huge factor in purchasing a home on the water. Because I mean, every time you turn on the sink, every time you turn on a shower, it's just going into one big tank and you're constantly having to pump it if you're living there full time. So I mean, that's definitely like something where whenever a client's like reaching out, like, hey, why is this one like so affordable? Or like, oh, I need to see this one and I see holding tanks. I'm like, let me explain what that is. Setbacks can be tricky as far as like again, it's mostly like new construction because there are quite a bit of like undeveloped land on Waterfront, and it can definitely be a little bit tricky when you're starting from scratch. So
Yeah, I would imagine that. Are there, with that being said, that just made me piggyback to another question. Are there any common inspection issues that you may come across when dealing with waterfront properties?
yeah, and not necessarily with like Waterfront exactly.
Okay.
They've started kind of moving focus to what's called a point of sale well and septic inspection. That's not necessarily specifically for Waterfront, but I think like the intent was to keep our water, like our lakes, clean and sanitary. But I know, especially on the big lake, which there's a lot fewer sales that everyone has on Lake Michigan because we have so many more like smaller inland lakes, and not even necessarily smaller inland lakes. But you can definitely deal with erosion. I think it was 5 years ago, we were like at the 100-year high mark for the water level. So when you're getting like 10-foot waves and that's coming up against your foundation of your house, you can have not only water problems, but like, structural problems happening.
Great point right there. Great point. I don't think we haven't talked to or spoken to too many agents who deal with waterfront properties. But with that being said, I don't think we've necessarily covered issues like that. Now that you put that in perspective, I can 100% see that. I've talked to agents who've been in markets dealing with waterfront properties where they have given an example of the foundation of the house has the house kind of sloping down or slanted, and then, the insurance that goes into that, it's such a tricky and blurred line there. So I'm glad you kind of highlighted that, because those are things that can happen just naturally. You have no control.
Well, if you want like specific, for example, and this is more of a new construction, but out in Leland, there was like 6 acres, unbelievable view, pretty steep to the water, but like the view, usually when you're up high, you got a better view. But I remember it was like, 6 acres, it had like 150 feet of frontage, and you're like, why is that so affordable? Like I had multiple people reach out about it. And then I finally started doing some digging on what would need to be done in order to have a house that like wouldn't be in risk of erosion. And they were having to like nail steel beams like hundreds of feet into the sand footprint in order to make sure that if that dune kind of just like worked its way over the years, like, because it was happening, not often, but it was definitely something that was of concern in that specific spot. So definitely something that like, I'm like, hey, if I didn't know that, like, I would have bought it and built a house. But then you're like, you don't really want it rolling into Lake Michigan. So
no. Oh my goodness. Man, thank you for explaining that. And that's a great story right there. But that's something I've heard of. I think I may have even seen videos of stuff like that. And I'm just thinking, I would hate to find out I have this beautiful home off the water and it just over time just slid into the water.
Yeah.
That sounds so crazy.
Definitely don't want that.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously, you work, like you said, you work with properties from being couple tens of $1,000s vacant land all the way to multi-million-dollar homes. Is there a specific deal that stands out to you, either due to the uniqueness or the challenge that you overcame? And how do you approach the wide spectrum of properties that you handle?
For sure. And I try to keep about within an hour of the Traverse City area. I will go further if it's waterfront and I'm very comfortable with it. Just like going off of that, like the first story that comes to mind was like super early in my career. And I remember I was sitting around the office and these like older realtors who had been in the business for a really long time, like they were like, oh, I'm not going to show it unless it's above this price point. Or, oh, I saw it had 2.5% commission instead of 3 on this side. Like, I'm just not going to do it that. And like, to me, I told myself, I was like, I don't want to look at any of that until like it's close to being done. Like, I don't want it to be a factor in who I work with or what I do. So I remember I got this lead that no one else wanted to work with that was like 45 minutes from Traverse City. So it was definitely more in like an isolated area. And the house was like a true fixer-upper. It needed like a ton of work. And I spoke to this girl and she's like, hey, like this is like a perfect spot for me. And I like called the listing agent. I called a few other realtors and I can't get anyone to show me this property. And at that time I was like, are you kidding me? Like, what realtor wouldn't like take the time to show this house? And like, yeah, it was like, I mean, and this was back in, I think 2013, but I mean, it was like, like a $90,000 house. So like, yeah, I guess that's small, but like, I mean, to me, I was like, who cares? The girl wants to see it. Let's go. So I showed it to her. I helped her purchase it. She ended up doing a ton of work. I helped her sell it for, 3 times what she bought it for. Ooh. And that girl was so thankful that I did that and just helped her when no other realtor would give her the time of day, that I think she sent me 30 referrals since 2013. And they've all been with people that are just like kind, considerate people. So, I mean, that story definitely comes to mind. However, I can go in the complete polar opposite. Just last year, I had someone want me to come out to their house. So I did. And it was a gorgeous, gorgeous home. And I did what was my version of a competitive market analysis. And I said, I think we could get like 2.8, maybe 3 million. And well, he said, no, I'm not doing anything unless we list for 3.5. And just like kind of the way how he talked to me, kind of belittling my professional opinion. I was just like, right then and there, I'm like, hey, I don't think we're a good fit. I think that you should go with one of the other realtors you're interviewing. And he was just blown away. Like, he had never heard, I don't think anyone would say no to him. And I mean, it's not a local guy. I feel like Traverse City has like a pretty friendly reputation, and that wasn't the case. So I mean, so both spectrums. I'll go.
No, I get
whoever
it.
I think. Yeah, you got it. You feel me, right?
No, that's so funny. That's probably like the second or third time I've talked, and I'm pretty sure it's happened a lot. The second or third time I've heard an agent say they basically had to fire a client. I don't want to say that was the case per se, but you had to let them know, I don't think we're a good fit. And sometimes you just have to say that. Like you said, you like to service deserving people. Not to say that he wasn't deserving, but he seems like he knows what he wants and he doesn't necessarily need your help. So I get 100%.
It. So can I go into that just like a little bit?
Please.
I told you I was a college athlete and I started real estate. The first like 3 or 4 years, I was just like kind of going with any single lead that I could. And I think that is actually important to like, just like learn everything by going every different direction. But I was like working with people that were just like, I don't know how to word it so that I'm not like offending someone, but they were just like awful people. And it was like, it was really tough. It was really tough for me. And I ended up gaining about like 50 pounds of weight. And then I got alopecia on my face. So even when I was clean shaven, you could see bald spots on my face. And it turned out it was just like me dealing with like people, and it was like stressing me out. So I think it was like 2017, I decided I am only working with people that like I really want to work hard for. And I was like, I don't care if I'm not doing as much business. Like, I'll be okay either way. Like, I just need to focus on my mental health. Like, I think that's fine. Like, there's been a big push for that lately, and I think there needs to be a big push for that. 100%. But anyways, like once I did that, my business exploded. And then like I grew this beard so you couldn't see my alopecia, but then it filled in, So
beard gang, I feel it.
It's there. So yeah, I think that's something worth mentioning that, It's like
man.
When you focus on the deserving people, it just makes like working hard easy.
Man,
easier.
Well said. Great way to land that plane, because I mean, I wish I would get the title. It's a book that I'm recently listening to that explains where, I mean, you can have a business, and most people say, I just want to service anybody who's willing to come in the door. But at the same time, like I said before, like not everyone is compatible with everyone. Your personalities just may not mix, even whether you're just having a casual conversation or doing business. Sometimes personalities just don't mix, and you have to know when to say, maybe not no, but you say, this just isn't for me. So I have to redirection, pivot or something like that. So, hey, man,
100%.
I can only applaud you for that. Yeah, I can only applaud you for that, because it takes a certain level of maturity and self-awareness to know, I know what I want now. I know what's worked best for me. And then you obviously had the physical things happening to you that let you know it's time for a change. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Sorry to hear that you had to go through that, but I'm glad you turned it around. Perfect.
Yeah. I think it's a common thing with realtors. And I think that's why there's like, and I think it's, 95 or 98% fail rate for realtors in the first like 3 to 5 years.
Yep,
So, I mean,
yep.
like I get it because it was within that first 3 to 5 years that, I don't know. I think it's one of those things where you kind of like grow into it and grow with how you need to adjust, because what's the saying? Like, if you're not growing, you're dying, Tommy boy. So, yeah.
Facts. That's a bar right there. No, and that's a real one. That, like you said, that 3 to 5 year, it could either break you or it can make you, and you found a way to take the latter, man. Love that, man.
100%. Right.
So I found out through your social media page, I don't know how true this is, says 70% of households have pets, and 43% of households would change their living situation because of their pets. I had no idea.
I get that from my company. So I'm hoping that they got it from a legitimate source. But I'm a pet lover. I'm an animal guy. I got a Siberian Husky. I got 2 rescue houses.
Ooh.
For sure, people change their complete plans, the perspective based off of their animals. I mean, I sold a condo one time where they said they changed the bylaws to where they could only have 1 pet, but they had 2 dogs. And they're like, yeah, I'm out of here. I said, yep, completely get it. I've had people only look for houses with no stair entries because their dog's arthritis in their hips. And I'm like, that's the sweetest thing alive. So sure, I'll help you with that. Yeah. And I mean, I've had people design their basement so that they have like custom cat walls for their cats to enjoy. So yeah, I mean, people love their pets here. I think that Traverse City is an area where like, if you're driving down the road and you don't see like 40 dogs like going downtown Traverse City, like it's an off day. So it's an animal town for sure.
So would you say that kind of reflects your clients, 70% or 43% or whatever the case may be?
I mean, I don't necessarily always get like crazy personal, but when they say, hey, I got a dog, I'm like, yeah, what kind? How long have you had it? So I'm like, here, I got a Siberian Husky, so like, I'm not trying to like throw my personal stuff at them, but if they have a dog, I'm like, oh yeah. I mean, your trust level with me wanting to represent you just went way up. But I don't.
I know, right?
People with animals.
And I get it, because your pet, your dog, your cat, it's an extension of your family. In most cases, they probably have your same last name, the family last name. Definitely. You have a spot for them in the home. So it's only right that you treat them like family and you make accommodations for them as well. So I respect that also. Love to hear that. Well, thank you so much, Weston, for pulling up a chair to the closing table. We appreciate at this point, if you have any last words and or want to tell people how to reach out to you, the floor is yours.
Oh, man. I mean, I think if you Google Weston Buchan, you'll find my name, find my number. I'm just thankful that you reached out to me in specific to have me be a part of your show. So you're a killer host, man. I feel like we'd get along and having some beers someday. So if you're ever in Traverse City, hit me up. All right.
Yeah, man, love that. I'm gonna take you up on that too if I'm up there, man.
Please
Thank
do.
you so much again for being here, Weston, and for our YouTube audience watching right now. If you've gotten to this point in the episode, do us both a favor and hit the like button, please, and thank you. Make sure you also subscribe and share the content, And if you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or any of the podcast platforms, please do the same. Give us a like, a 5-star rating, and subscribe for our latest content. Hey, Weston, I'd like to leave our audience with a question before they leave the chat. Something thought-provoking. Get your brains turning. If you have ever bought vacant land with a real estate agent, what was your criteria and how did your agent make the transaction easy for you? Don't tell us now. Leave it in the comments below. Besides that,
my man,
we'll talk to you later.